Hi all, welcome back. As you know, we were discussing the memoir of Satyajit Ray, the project Tiger. And let's have a recap of the memoir that we discussed in the last classes through some questions. Are you ready to answer my questions? Let's start. My first question. How did Ray begin his article? How did Ray begin his article? I know you answered it already. Right. The answer is no one can beat Hollywood when it comes to making films with animals in them. Okay. My second question. What was the customary thing in Hollywood? What was the customary thing in Hollywood? Excellent. It is customary for actors to be present when the lights are arranged, for they have to show the cameraman how they will walk or they will stand in a particular shot. And here is the third question. What do you mean by a stand? What do you mean by a stand? What do you mean by a stand-in? Yes, you are right. A stand-in is usually a person who is physically similar to the real star. Here is my fourth question. What were the difficulties Alfred Hitchcock had to face while making the film Birds? What were the difficulties he had to face while making the film Birds? Yes. Alfred Hitchcock needed a large number of trained ravens and various other birds for his film Birds. It was difficult to get the trained ravens in large numbers. These were the difficulties that faced by Alfred Hitchcock when he shot the film Birds. And fifth question. How did Hitchcock managed to get a large number of ravens for his film? How did he manage? Yes, you're right. He advertised in newspaper all over the United States to contact him if anyone had trained ravens in large numbers. Question number 6. What is the name of the movie in which Ray used a tiger? What is the name of that movie? Yes, Gooby Gaine Baga Bain. And next question. What is the story thread of the scene? What is the story thread of the scene in which Ray used a tiger? What is that story thread? Yes. In the film, Gooby, who is banished by the king, wanders in the forest, meets Baga, who is also been banished. They see a tiger and freeze, but the tiger simply walks about in the forest without paying them the slightest attention. This was the storyline of this scene in which Ray used a tiger in the movie Gooby Gaine Baga Bain. Next question. How did Ray manage to get a tiger? We know that how did Alfred Hitchcock manage to get the trained ravens. But here, how did Ray manage to get the tiger? Yes. Ray contacted the Bharat Circus Company and made an arrangement with them to get a tiger for his film shoot. He contacted a Bharat Circus Company to get the trained tiger or trained animals. And next question. What is the role of a ringmaster in a circus? What is the role of a ringmaster in a circus? What is his role? Yes. A ringmaster manages the performances and also trains and controls the animals. This is the role of a ringmaster in a circus. And here is the next question. What is the name of the ringmaster of Bharat Circus Company and how was he look like? Ray contacted the Bharat Circus Company and the manager of the Bharat Circus Company introduced a person, the ringmaster, to him, to Ray. And what was the name of him and how was he look like? Mr. Thorat. He was a South Indian, very well built with the features somewhat like those of a Nepali. He was perhaps no more than 40. And do you remember he showed Ray a scar on his right hand which caused by a tiger? And next question. How did Ray want to shoot the scene? How did Ray want to shoot the scene? Yes. He wanted to show a tiger in a thick bamboo grove. All the animal was required to do was come out of the bamboo grove into an open space, pace gently for a while, look at the camera if possible, and then go back. This is the way how Ray wanted to shoot that scene with the tiger. And next question. What were the difficulties faced in bringing the tiger before the camera? What were the difficulties? Yes. The tiger had to be set free in the bamboo grove. Mr. Thorat had never let the tiger out of his cage on his own. These were the difficulties faced in bringing the tiger before the camera. And my last question to recap the story. What does the expression to go down the drain mean? What do you mean by that expression? Yes, it means to be wasted or to become useless. What is that? Yes, Ray thought that when he heard a reply from Mr. Thorat, he was not sure about the tiger. Ray thought is all the plans to be wasted, all to go in a drain. Okay. I hope all of you have answered all these 13 questions correctly. And these were the things that we discussed in the last classes. Are you ready to go through the rest part of the story? Okay, let's start without wasting a minute. Here we go. Mr. Thorat found a solution. I will tie a wire round the tiger's neck. It will be thin but strong. If the wire was thin enough, perhaps it would remain invisible to the camera, but it was likely that the hair on the tiger's neck would be flattened by the wire, which would give the whole thing away. What if we found a collar made of tiger skin, fixed the wire to this collar and then tied it round the tiger's neck? I said. In a village called Gram, we found a suitable bamboo grove to film the first meeting between Gooby and Baga and the appearance of the tiger. Mr. Thorat reached the shooting location with the tiger. There were about 25 people in the location. A few local people took our permission to go with us to watch how we tackled the tiger. The cage on the lorry was covered. When the cover was removed, we were surprised to see not one but two well-fed and robust tigers. I decided to play it safe, Mr. Thorat explained. If one doesn't get it right, we can use the other. We mounted the camera on its tripod and placed it so that it faced the bamboo grove. The audience was instructed to get behind the camera and to stand as far back as possible. We had to stay relatively close to the bamboo grove, and Gooby and Bagat had to be within yards of the camera, for it was necessary to have at least one shot that showed them together with the tiger. Mr. Thorat's men had fixed a 5-foot iron rod to the ground, about 30 feet from the area where the tiger was supposed to take a walk. They took a thin, long wire and fixed one end to the collar made of tiger skin that the tiger was already wearing. The other end was tied firmly to the visible portion of the iron rod. The door of one of the cages was unfastened and Mr. Thorat called out to the tiger. It responded almost at once and sprang out of its cage to land on the open space outside. What followed was totally unexpected. One look at Mr. Thorat's startled and helpless face told us that he was as taken aback as the rest of us. Instead of walking sedately in a dignified manner, the tiger started prancing around with a tremendous enthusiasm. It leapt, jumped, it rolled about, dragging its poor trainer, who was desperately clutching the wire tied to the tiger's collar in a futile attempt to bring it under control. We stood around foolishly, watching a new and strange kind of circus which we were getting to see for free. The camera was still standing on its 3 legs, staring into the woods, but the tiger was showing no sign of making its way there. Once the tiger had calmed down, we managed to take the few shots we needed. This should have been the end of the story. But when we returned to Calcutta and looked at the scenes with the tiger, we realized that the camera had failed to work properly. The shots were too dark, so much so that the tiger was merging almost completely with the background of the trees and leaves. We had to shoot the scenes all over again. We spoke to Mr. Thorat and he agreed to give it another go. We found another bamboo grove closer to Calcutta in a village called Bor. The lorry arrived once more with Mr. Thorat, the tiger, the steel wire, the special collar and the iron rod. And with the lorry came the whole village. We told the villagers that they would stand at a distance of 70 feet. No one paid any attention to what they were taught. The entire crowd moved as close to the camera as they could. We could not afford to waste any more time explaining and arguing. So we got the camera ready and signaled to Mr. Thorat. He opened the door of the cage. The instant the door opened with a clang, our tiger emerged with a loud roar and charged straight at the villagers gathered behind the camera. The crowd, consisting of about 150 people, melted away as if by magic. After that great burst of energy, the tiger calmed down very quickly. Like an obedient child, it walked over to the spot we had chosen, paced about quietly as it was required to, and then ambled back its trainer. Even the camera behaved this time, which we realized 2 days later when we returned to Calcutta and saw the scenes we had shot. Did you listen the story carefully? I hope all of you have listened it very carefully, and it's now your turn to read the part that we just completed very silently. Please read the part silently. Okay. In the last class, we saw the tension of Ray about how to shoot the scene with the tiger. Mr. Thorad found a solution. What was Mr. Thorad's suggestion to control the tiger? Yes, Mr. Thorad suggested that he would tie a thin but strong wire round the tiger's neck to control the tiger. When Satyajit Ray was in utter confusion how to shoot the scene with the tiger, Mr. Thorad put forward a solution in front of Ray, and he suggested that they could use a wire, a thin wire, and he could tie the wire round the tiger's neck to control the tiger. That was the solution suggested by Mr. Thorad. Ray heard this solution of Mr. Thorad, but he was not satisfied. And he thought of a collar made of tiger skin. And my question is, what made Ray think of a collar made of tiger skin? What made Ray think of a collar made of tiger skin? Yes. Ray thought of a collar made of tiger skin because the neck could be flattened by the wire and it might spoil the scene. From this, we can say that Ray is a perfectionist. He wants to shoot every scene, each and every scene perfectly. That's why he said that the wire may flatten the tiger's skin, and he don't want to use the thin wire to control the tiger. That's why Ray suggested a collar made of tiger skin. And they found a shooting location. Where did they find a suitable bamboo grove to film the first meeting between Gooby and Baga and the appearance of the tiger? Where was that place? Yes. In a village called Nodungram, they found a suitable bamboo grove. So the shooting location was in a village called Nodungram. Mr. Thorad reached the shooting location with the tiger in a lorry, and he brought 2 tigers. Why did Mr. Thorad bring 2 tigers instead of 1? Why did he bring 2 tigers instead of 1? Yes, the answer is Mr. Thorad decided to play it safe. If one tiger didn't behave well, they could use the other one. And that's why Mr. Thorad brought 2 tigers instead of 1, and these both tigers were well fed and robust. Ray and his team set everything, and they mounted the camera on its tripod and placed it so that it faced the bamboo grove. Have you ever seen the tripod? Have you seen the tripod? Yes, here you can see the picture of tripod. Now you might have understood what's a tripod. A tripod that used to mount the camera. Ray wanted to shoot at least one shot with the tiger. And Ray and Mr. Thorad had arranged something to shoot with the tiger. My question, what did they do to have at least one shot with the tiger? What did they do? Yes, Mr. Thorad's men had fixed a 5-foot iron rod to the ground about 30 feet from the area where the tiger was supposed to take a walk. They took thin, long wire and fixed one end to the collar made of tiger skin that the tiger was already wearing. These were the arrangements that made by Ray and Mr. Thorad's men to control the tiger or to take at least one shot perfectly. Mr. Thorad unfastened one of the cages and the tiger sprang out of its cage. What followed was totally unexpected. Ray looked at Mr. Thorad's face. It was startled and helpless, and he was 2 steps aback. Dears, why was Mr. Thorad taken aback? He is the ringmaster, he is the controller of the tiger. Then why Mr. Thorad taken aback? Yes, when Mr. Thorad opened the cage, the tiger sprang out and started prancing around instead of walking sedately. It jumped and rolled about with tremendous enthusiasm. Mr. Thorad was taken aback at this unexpected behavior of the tiger. When Mr. Thorad saw the unexpected behavior of the tiger, he taken aback. And what might be the reason for the tiger's unexpected behavior? What might be the reason? Yeah. The tiger might become distracted on seeing the huge crowd outside. There was a huge crowd outside, and that maybe distracted the tiger. And it's first time the tiger went outside without his ringmaster. Okay. Ray described this situation humorously. How does Ray describe the situation humorously? How does he describe that situation, that unexpected situation humorously? Yes, the tiger's unexpected behavior frightened Mr. Thorad, but he was desperately tried to control it. Ray humorously says that it was as if they were watching a new and strange kind of circus for free. Ray says that it was a kind of circus they are watching freely without a cost. And that's how Ray described that situation humorously. When the tiger had calmed down, they managed to take a few shots they needed. And Ray thought that should have been the end of the story. What did Ray mean when he said this should have been the end of the story? Why did he say like that, this should have been the end of the story? Yeah. Ray mean that they had to shoot the scenes with the tiger again because something went wrong. And now you know that what was the wrong happened. What was the wrong thing happened in that shot. And why was Mr. Thorad asked to give it another go? Why he was asked so? You're right. The camera had not worked properly. All the shots they took were too dark, and the tiger was almost completely merged with the background of trees and leaves. So, Ray asked Mr. Thorad to give it another go and to shoot the scenes all over again. Mr. Thorad, the ringmaster, agreed to shoot the scenes again, and Ray found another shooting location near Calcutta, a village called Boral. Mr. Thorad arrived again with 2 well-fed, robust tigers. And my question, what was the magic performed by the tiger at Boral? What was the magic that performed at Boral, the second shooting location of the movie Gooby Gaine and Baga Baine? What was that magic? Yes, you are right. When Mr. Thorad opened the cage, the tiger charged at the villagers gathered behind the camera. The crowd melted away immediately as if in a magic. The crowd, who were not paid any attention to the words of Ray and his crew members, melted away from that shooting location as if a magic. Then the tiger calmed down and Ray could manage the tiger as it was required. Then my question, what was really required of the tiger in that scene? What was really required of the tiger in that scene? Do you remember that? Yes. The tiger was required to come out of the bamboo grove, walk sedately over to the spot they had chosen, and pace quietly without paying any attention to the actors. This is the way they wanted the tiger. After the shooting, Ray returned to Calcutta and saw the shots. What did Ray and his team realize 2 days later the shooting? What did he realize? Yes. They realized that the camera worked this time well and the shots they took were good. The shots were good. After the hard work and the determination of Ray, he could shoot the scene with the tiger perfectly as he wished. Ray's hard work and determination make the movie Gubi Gaine and Baga Baine one of the hits of Bengal cinema. So, this is all about the memoir Project Tiger. And my dear children, don't forget to write the answers of the textual questions. So, I'll be back with another video lesson. Till then, bye.